Hey, this is Mick from Nexus Property Management. We are a nationwide property management franchise company with locations in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Arizona. And I want to take a couple of minutes to tell you a bit about ourselves, our values, our principles, and how we separate ourselves from the competition. In that, I'd like to talk about where our name comes from and what it means, the importance of thinking long-term instead of short-term, and a quick real estate investment 101. So when you hear the word Nexus, maybe something comes to mind. The definition is all about connecting things, and a point of intersection. And that's exactly what we want to be. We want to broker those relationships between owners and their properties, their tenants. Right? All those things come together, and it's Nexus that takes pride in being that intersection point, right, for successful relationships and successful real estate investment. Now, if you're familiar with our videos and you've seen us around, you know that we've got a bunch of different slogans, and most commonly we use Nexus Property Management, your property managed. But our first slogan was connecting you to better living. And that pulls back on that idea of Nexus as a connection point. And the point here is to really look at that idea of connecting. That's what we want to do. But look at that word you as well. Connecting you. That you means clients, connecting them to better living because of the investment opportunities they get by working with us, but it also means connecting tenants, that you could be tenants, because their lives are better when they're in Nexus managed properties. We know that tenants put a premium on being in our buildings. The other piece of that you is our teammates, our employees. Nexus is a great place for people to work. So across the board, we're connecting you, whoever that you might be, to better living. So speaking of connecting, recently, Nick Dagnillo, our CEO and founder, and myself connected with Dave McNiven at the Sounds of Health podcast. It was a good experience, good chat, and we got to talk about the origins of Nexus, and a lot of it has to do with Nick's story as a professional poker player. So that DNA, in terms of making informed decisions time and time again, is a big part of our policy and a big part of what separates us from some of our competition. What's the best decision if I was in this position facing these variables a million times in a row? That is how we think. All of our offices from Rhode Island to Arizona, we train our employees to think, what's the best solution time and time again? So in thinking this way, we're always thinking long-term, right? Short-term versus long-term. We're always thinking long-term, and we're pushing our clients to think that same way, to see through that lens of how does this work after 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, 30, depending on what mortgage you have, whatever your reasoning for investing. Right? We want to make sure that we're not getting stuck in the ups and downs of the daily flow of the monthly income. There's more to it, and for us, it's really a short-term versus long-term. Gambling, just kind of throwing your money out there and hoping for the best, or getting as much information as possible to truly invest and work toward the best possible results down the road. So ultimately for us, the goal is aligned interests. Right? We want everybody playing the same game, rowing the same way, benefiting in the same way. We want to take care of those tenants so they feel good, they're happy, they take pride in their home. That translates to success for the owner. Right, they're happy with us, they continue to work with us, they might invest in more properties, and it's good for Nexus as well. We're all swimming the same way, right? Aligned interests. If you work with a company or you know of a company where that's not the case, where they're making a couple bucks at your expense, where they're not taking care of those tenants, you gotta find somebody better. But ultimately, it all comes down to finding a property manager that is focused on your best long-term results. Now, we asked 100 of our employees, right, how can they tell when a client is not thinking long-term, someone who's stuck in that short-term lens? Right? It's not pretty, it's not efficient, it's wasteful. Let's see what we came up with. The most common client choices that tell you they're not thinking long-term, right? The fifth one on there is going to the property to collect the rent. If you or your property manager are going to collect the rent, how inefficient is that? That's a big waste, and that's you being nervous in the short term. I need to get my money, I need to get paid. It's no way to have a lasting, long-term, successful investment. The fourth is requiring that tenants pay for maintenance. Now, this one sounds kind of funny. If the maintenance is needed because the tenant did something wrong, of course the person who messed something up should be responsible, but play it out in real time. If somebody breaks something at your apartment and you charge them, guess what's going to happen next time something breaks? They're not going to tell you. And the next time, they're not going to tell you. And all of a sudden, right, it's time for them to move out, and your turnover costs $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 because you primed them to not tell you when anything went wrong. It's no good for your property in the long term. It's annoying, it doesn't feel right, but as a property owner, with the exclusion of some strange cases, you should be taking care of those maintenance expenses. It's your responsibility. Number 3, reducing rent for tenants who agree to do some jobs on the side. Right? Having somebody who's not qualified or insured do your maintenance is a terrible idea for liability reasons. Long term, it's going to be a problem. Right? If the guy on the second floor fixes up a handrail for you, person on the third floor comes down and slips and falls, and you say, well, my second floor guy fixed it. That's not going to hold. All right, you need to do better. And you're also giving a lot of power to that person on the second floor. Right? What if they don't have the money for rent and all of a sudden it gets a little bit ugly? Right? Well, maybe I'll just fix this. I'll fix this. Maybe I can work it off. Right? That rent that they owe you is going to balloon and balloon and balloon. It's a terrible way to go. Could it be a short-term fix? Sure. Is it a long-term strategy? Nope, not a good one. Number 2 on the list from our Nexus team members, right, to show that someone's thinking short-term instead of long-term is having a default no when it comes to maintenance. Now, you'll notice a lot of this has to do with maintenance. We have said before in past videos and blogs that maintenance is the number 1 point of friction. Here it is. Right. If you, as a landlord, are in the habit of saying no, 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 you break the circle. Right? Like we were saying, we're trying to have aligned interests. We all want to be working together, swimming in the same direction. Right? You break that. Now, there are obviously times when tenants might be taking advantage of things, but that's not what we're talking about. In general, if there's a service request that comes on our portal, we're going to look at it, and most of them are valid. Right? You should take care of that as a landlord. Right? You're showing that tenant that you value their tenancy. You value them taking care of your property. If you don't do it, they could withhold rent, or next time, like we had with that earlier example, they're just not going to tell you, and that's not where you want to be. The number 1 response when it comes to evidence that clients are not thinking long-term is when they choose to do their leasing themselves. Now, at Nexus, if our clients want to do maintenance issues or leasing, we give them that freedom. But when it comes to placing tenants, it's really in your best interest to have a professional do it. How you start that tenancy is going to have all the implications for how it goes in the future. Having Nexus create those strong relationships from day 1 is the way to make sure those relationships are strong on day 365 or 2 years out or 3 years out. We want long-term tenancy with no hassles. The right way to do that, the best way to do that, is to let Nexus or some professional take care of your leasing for you. That is how you maximize your returns in the long run. If not, you're more likely to have evictions, you're more likely to have maintenance expenses, right? Those are zeros that are that's pulling from your investment. It's not going to work well. You need to think long-term at all times. That's what we do well. That's what separates us from our competition. Finally, just want to finish up with 4 financial benefits of rental property investment. Right? If you've made it this far, right, you're in. Right? You're interested. You want to get into this. Mortgage rates are going to change. Things are going to get better. Right? Here we go. Here's why this is the right financial move for you. Number 1 is principal reduction. Right? That's number 1. Principal reduction means this. You buy a $300,000 house, you need to put 30% down, so that's $90,000 down. You still owe $210,000. How are you going to pay that $210,000? You're not. Your tenants are going to. They're going to pay for the rest of your principal. How can you beat that? Right? That's a long-term strategy. That's you looking at the length of your mortgage and saying, right, this is what I'm going to benefit from. It's not short-term. Don't get stuck in the short-term. Number two is the short-term piece, cash flow. Right? People want that cash flow up front. It's the end of the month. Where's my money? That's great. It's helpful, but it doesn't matter. Right? In the long run, if you take a zero every month, but somebody just paid $210,000 to live in your home, how can you compare the two? Cash flow is nice, but all too often it's a distraction for investors who are losing sight of their long-term goals. If you take a loss here and there, if the market is bumpy, you're still working with a long-term winning strategy because someone's paying your principal for you. Number three, similarly, income tax. Right? Your income tax savings are huge. If you have an investment property, that house is your business. Any money you put into your business can be written off. If you hire us, which you should, right, all those expenses, management fees, leasing fees, maintenance, that can all be written off against your income. Why wouldn't you do it? Okay. Again, this is that long-term game over time, right? Whether you're making money up front or not. If you're thinking, I'm not going to pay for this maintenance, it's the wrong approach. Over time, the depreciation that exists is going to shelter you from that. You need to spend that money, take care of your tenants. The system is geared so that you can do so. And finally, number four. Right? Number four is the ultimate long-term game. It's appreciation. Right? Over time, if we take that $300,000 house that we used earlier, after your 25-year mortgage, somebody paid that $210,000 to pay off the $300,000 that you owe, but that house is worth way more than $300,000 now. Right? It's probably $450,000, $500,000, who knows where the market goes. Right? That's all gravy on top. So if that's the way the game goes, if that's how real estate investment works, how can we get stuck on, I only made $100 this month. Ooh, I took a loss. Right? You need to think long-term. You need someone in your corner that can keep you thinking that way. That's where Nexus comes in. Right? We have our offices in Rhode Island. We're in Worcester, Massachusetts. We're in Natick, Massachusetts. We're here in New Haven County, Connecticut, and also in the Phoenix area in Arizona. Reach out to someone today. We want to partner with you. We want to make your real estate investment as profitable as possible. We want to take care of the tenants so they have a connection to the best living possible. And we want to bring team members in to be part of our Nexus Property Management family.